everyone, I'm Lara Hammock from the Marble Jar channel, and today we're going to talk about the discussion that you should be having with your teenage boys about nudes, the term for sending racy photos on the internet. Listen up, parents of middle school and high school boys. You have to have this talk with your kids. If you've already done it, good job. If not, let's talk through some of the points that I think that you should make. First of all, let's just acknowledge that this is happening. Boys are asking for nudes and girls are sending them. I know that you will be shocked to hear that the reverse is rarely true. The term nudes, or just nudes, covers a range of photos that includes actual nudes to just compromising ones that show more skin than usual. So originally I had combined girls and boys into one video, and then I realized I had way too much to say, so I split them into two different videos. So as a result, there might be a little repetition for those of you who have one of each like I do, but a lot of the specific messaging is different. So this actually applies to kids of both genders. I would like to change two things about the way that these conversations usually happen. First of all, we tend to have these conversations after something bad has happened. So that's okay. That conversation is important too, albeit obviously less effective. But let's try to get ahead of the story and act preemptively. And number two, I'd like to change the tone from 100% scare tactics, girls will lose their reputation, boys can get arrested, to also talking about values and behavior towards others. And just a quick note about talking to boys about this. Far more parents feel compelled to have this conversation with their girls in the same way that parents feel compelled to talk to their girls about walking home alone or wearing provocative clothing or being aware of their environment. Parents don't feel like they need to talk to boys because, well, of course, my son would never solicit nude photos from a girl. Newsflash, some of them are obviously doing this. And frankly, I think it's important that parents be a part of this conversation, even if it's not your kid who's directly involved. So the talk, awareness. Back into this conversation gently by asking your son if he's ever heard of any girls who have sent nudes at his school. If you can, get him to tell you the circumstances, but most boys won't give you any data on this, either because they don't have any or because they don't feel comfortable talking about it. Then comes scare tactic. He probably already knows this, but just let him know that just possessing an explicit picture of an underage girl or boy is a crime. So then ask him what he would do if a photo like this was sent to him or forwarded from a friend. And then let him know the correct answer is do not forward it under any circumstances. In the eyes of the law, it is one thing to possess child pornography. It is much worse to distribute it. Okay, don't send, and excuse my language here, but this is what they're called, don't send dick pics. This honestly seems utterly ridiculous to me, but apparently boys have taken to sending girls pictures of their genitals. It's essentially that guy in the trench coat on the train, internet style. At very best, it is sexual harassment, and more than that, it is just foul. This strains credulity for me, but one 13-year-old told me that she received 11 of these in one day. So this is the sort of thing you don't feel like you need to say, but let's do it anyway. When I asked my son whether he'd ever received or sent nudes, he said, "Why would anyone want to send that to me?" And then he said, "Why would anyone want to get that for me?" And I completely agree. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So here's where we start to get into values. So say you have a high status kid. You know who you are. He's popular with the ladies. He spends a lot of time on his hair. You have to tell him never to ask. Here's what apparently happens. Boys text, send nudes to a bunch of girls just fishing and seeing what they might get back. In some cases, it's kind of the equivalent of pulling pigtails. They're just trying to get a reaction. In other cases, they might actually get a nude photo back, particularly if they've spent some time grooming that girl. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Don't do it. Girls are people. Again, totally a given, but let's just say it anyway. So let's say he went fishing and he caught a big one. Well, what boy wouldn't want to brag to his friends, right? And wouldn't the easiest way to brag be to just forward that photo, the proof, on to all of them? Okay, so we've already covered the criminal implications of this, but let's just talk about being a good person and making the right decisions. What will happen to that girl? Will she lose her friends? Will she get a terrible reputation? So I don't care whether she made a bad choice in sending it to you. This is about the choice that you are making, about whether you are a decent human being. Make the right call here. Bystander intervention. Okay, let's say you aren't the one asking and you aren't the one forwarding, but you know boys or are friends with boys who are. What do? Do you keep quiet? So there's a range of courageous actions that he can choose to take. Obviously, the very best is calling out this behavior for what it is and shutting it down if possible. Say, don't send that stuff to me, I don't want to see it, or don't send that, it will be really bad for her. But if all that takes too much courage, then at least defend the girl in the presence of others, since inevitably that photo will make the rounds. Do not participate in slut shaming. People sometimes make bad decisions or they make mistakes. Don't help make a bad situation worse. And lastly, come to me. If you know of this happening, come to me. I won't blow your cover. I won't immediately sound the alarm. But as a community, we have to do better than this. And it all starts with boys behaving better. There will inevitably be people who disagree with me about the level of responsibility boys have in this situation. I just think the scales are already off balance. Girls shoulder a disproportionate amount of stigma in this conversation about nudes. Just consider that there's not an analogous boy word for slut in the English language. Certainly not one that carries the same degree of shame and stigma. So yes, I think all boys have a responsibility to call out terrible behavior and do the right thing. What a different world this would be if every kid's parents routinely had this discussion with them. Aren't these the values that we want them to carry forward? Don't ask for things that you have no right to. Don't send unsolicited awfulness. Empathize with others. Shut down malicious rumors. Stand up for what is right and trust your parents. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comment section. And thanks for watching.